Hello. Hi. Yeah. I'm 31. 3rd of August 1986. Originally, yeah, but I grew up in Hong Kong, so my parents moved there when I was 2. So my dad was an investment banker at that time. I was at the time I did the pangolin awareness campaign. And now I am a few things, but I am I'm a postgraduate at HKU in the conservation forensics lab. So it's sort of a group of scientists that are working together to come up with forensic tools to help abate the wildlife trade in Hong Kong, or sort of facilitate the enforcement. Yeah. Yeah, I founded that group when I was doing the awareness campaign in 2015. I think it was June. Yeah. Well, yeah, it was June 2015, and basically, Humane Society International decided that and I decided that we would do a survey of the Hong Kong population about pangolin consumption, because there wasn't much information available on consumption in Hong Kong and attitudes in Hong Kong and awareness and things like that. And also there wasn't much being done on pangolin conservation at all at that time. Since then it has increased, which is great. But so we basically, with the help of HKU, Social Sciences Department, we did a survey of the Hong Kong population, and they phoned up about more than 1,000 people, and they had, a methodological system of selecting the survey participants so that it was demographically representing the population of Hong Kong, all these things, and asked them a set of questions. And the results revealed, among other things, that there was a lot of awareness to be built in Hong Kong, since 85% of the people surveyed believe that pangolin scales have medicinal value. The top 2 reasons for eating pangolin meat listed were good for your health and medicinal value. Only 8% of the population knew that there were pangolins actually that are native to Hong Kong, and there's a population in Hong Kong. And yeah, there was just generally a lot of confusion. 50% were confused at that time about the legality of pangolin scale consumption. And 27% were not sure if it was legal or not to consume pangolin meat. So, yeah, at that time, it was a little bit of a gray area when it came to pangolin scales, to be fair, because at that time, African pangolin species were not listed on Appendix 1, but Asian pangolin species were. That changed at the end of 2016 on CITES Conference of Parties meeting. So now all are protected from trade, yeah. I had never heard of them before, and I suddenly found, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I found out, that pangolin scales were being seized by Hong Kong customs in huge amounts. And I didn't know what a pangolin was. I looked it up, and I saw that it was this, weird nocturnal solitary creature that was found in Hong Kong, that's critically endangered. The species found in Hong Kong is critically endangered. And also, what really blew my mind was the volume of pangolin scales being seized compared to the amount of scales on one individual pangolin. There is some conversion rate. It varies among the 8 different species, but I believe it's somewhere between 2 and 4 kg per individual pangolin. Whereas last year there was a seizure of 7.2, so 7,200 kilograms of scales. And that's just one seizure. So I just dread to think. No. Sorry. In May 2017, it was 7,500 kilograms in one seizure. So that, if you divide that by however much one pangolin, it's just even without knowing much about the species I knew, wow, that's not sustainable. That's a problem, you know? I don't know that there is that much harvesting going on in Hong Kong. Most of the seizures are coming from African countries. So it'll be like those big container ships mostly, or sometimes smaller amounts arrive by speedboat from various parts of Asia. But I think that in Hong Kong country parks that actually it's a relatively good stronghold for the Chinese pangolin, which is a critically endangered species of pangolin, and also found throughout China. I think in China, though, it's not doing as well as it has been here or in Taiwan. That is not, I'm not sure that AFCD even really know, to be honest. It's very difficult to survey the species because they live in burrows underground or in the trees, and they come out only at night, and they have a certain, range. And even people I know who have released seized pangolins. There's a project outside of Hanoi in Vietnam where they get loads of live pangolins that have been seized. They're going in vans from like Vietnam towards China or wherever. And if Customs seizes them, they give them to this rehabilitation center that will put tags on them and release them back into the nature reserve. But even a scientist I know working there, when they had a tracker on the pangolin, she said it was so hard to find this pangolin again. You'd hear the tracker going off, but you would just not know where is it. They're so good at hiding from people. But yeah, I know. But what I've heard is that poachers use dogs. They train dogs to sniff them out. And then, of course, they have their defense mechanism, which isn't very effective when it comes to poachers just rolling up into a handy ball that they can pick up. I think you'd have to ask AFCD. I do have some. I have some contacts there that you could maybe ask, but I don't know that there's anyone studying this population. Yeah, which is a shame. I think that should be a priority for the government, really. If we've got one of the last strongholds for the Chinese pangolin, it should be monitored, protected. We should have current population estimates. We should be doing a lot more to make sure that they're doing okay. Because, we don't know if they are, in fact, being poached or not. It's actually, I have not seen a pangolin in the wild in Hong Kong. There's been a few records, like roadkill incidents and other incidents where they've been injured by wild dogs and brought to Kadoorie Farm. And that's about it. I think also there was one time one wandered into Hoi Ha town. So I think the media covered that because someone was lucky enough to spot and take pictures. But really, I think Hong Kong's role when it comes to pangolins, the more like fascinating thing for me really is how much of the pangolin scale trade seems to be coming through Hong Kong as a trade hub. I think it's for historical, geographical reasons. There's sort of a lot of wildlife trade, like ivory, for example, historically comes through Hong Kong because it was this very, or still is, a very massive trading port and a gateway to China for the rest of the world. And that sort of has meant that these industries have been built up, and all the craftsmen or the tradesmen have made their base here. And then that's just something that sort of continues, even when if different trades maybe go underground because they've been banned or whatever, it will, the framework, the sort of trade route and all the mechanisms are still there. And because Hong Kong is, I believe, the fourth largest container port in the world, it's really an impossible task for Hong Kong customs to, check every single container. And that's why we see so much tropical wood being smuggled through, a lot of ivory being smuggled through, and yeah, indeed, pangolin scales. In 2016, actually, was a record-breaking year for pangolin scale seizures in Hong Kong. There was over 14,000, or almost 14,000 kilograms of scales intercepted by Hong Kong customs, and that's more than was seized. Hong Kong customs seized pangolin scales between 2010 and 2015. So in those 5 years, they didn't seize 14,000 kilos cumulatively, but in 2016 they did. So it's really increasing. I think because we've sort of seen a trend of it coming more from African countries, maybe the whatever organized criminal networks that are transporting this product have realized that the Asian populations are really dwindling. In the Philippines and in Indonesia and Vietnam as well, they're harder to find. Maybe they have relocated to Africa and started taking from the populations there. I mean that's just an educated guess from the, if you're looking at where the seizures are coming from, and yeah, the increase. It's really I don't know, it's a really sad situation because they're so not published, they're not publicized as much as the elephants, or tigers or things like that, even though they are really exploited to unsustainable levels, and they may well go extinct, from if things carry on like this. I don't know. I think they're just as interesting and cute, but maybe not generally. They've not been marketed, or I don't know. But in the past few years, like I said at the beginning of this interview, that it has increased the amount of awareness around pangolin trade. And I think there's a lot more resources being channeled towards that. But I think also another thing that is important is that with all of these huge seizures being done in Hong Kong of this illegal pangolin trade, the prosecutions and the associated the penalties are so low that it's just not a deterrent. And I think that so I got actually an answer from AFCD directly about this. So between 2010 and 2015, there were 89 pangolin seizures, and the offenders, these involved about 7.2 thousand kilos, 7,200 kilos, and of carcasses of whole bodies, and 12,400 kilos of scales. But the offenders were sentenced to imprisonment of 4 weeks, between 4 weeks to 4 months, and a fine of between 500 to 15,000 Hong Kong dollars. I think it's outrageous. It's just a business expense for these criminals. They just continue as usual once they've done their 4 weeks in prison and paid their 15,000. And I mean, what we're talking about is the potential extinction of this species from the planet. There should be much higher consequences if someone is endangering something like that and taking it away from our future generations and ecosystems and everything. That's how. Well, I think it should be taken up to the level of an organized crime. I know that there's a legal term for it, but I think it's the organized crime ordinance doesn't yet encompass wildlife trade. So the Hong Kong government doesn't consider it that level of a crime. But I really think, yeah, I'm not sure, because it definitely, you can see from the seizures coming in from Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana, and elsewhere by big container ships in volumes exceeding 5,000-7,000 kilos, that this is an organized operation, a transnational network of criminals working together to move this illegal product from one area to another. And that's, I believe, the definition of organized crime. So I think the time is ripe for that to be updated, really, especially since time is of the essence for this species in particular. I think if we all, if three things need to happen. Awareness needs to increase, so that people who are confused about if, eating pangolin or eating scales or meat is bad or not, if they know, I believe, if they know that the species is at risk, then they will choose not to do it in most cases, I think. And secondly, enforcement needs to be bolstered, both in the countries where the pangolins exist, so in Africa or in Hong Kong country parks or in wherever, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines. The rangers need to really work to protect these species, these individuals and the species, and then legally the fines for people and criminals that do trade in pangolin needs to be increased. And then I think we can save them if we start now, or if we start in 2015, which we kind of did. So that's good. Increase awareness and enforcement. Oh, I think they should be increased, to levels that would actually damage an internationally or an organized criminal syndicate, like millions. Yeah, and 10 plus years in prison, something like that. I think that they see a business opportunity, and they know that they're breaking the law. They probably know they're endangering the existence of this species, and they don't. They seem not to think that's very valuable, which is surprising to me. I think so. In the survey, we asked people, why do they consume pangolin scales? What to treat, what ailments? And the answers ranged from rheumatism, soreness, itchiness, cancer, eczema, diabetes, and impotence. So that's a very wide range of ailments, and I think that there's, it's very highly unlikely that one material could solve all these issues. And also, meanwhile, there are Western pharmaceutical alternatives that can treat diabetes and impotence and eczema and soreness and, you know, all of those things. And if you go for this pharmaceutical alternative, then you can also protect the pangolins and not endanger a species with extinction. So I think that that is what one should do. And I think that most people would if they had the information available to them. The future, yeah, I think that depends on what we do, how many resources we allocate to protecting the surviving populations. If the Hong Kong government increases and other governments increase the penalties associated with trading this species, and if NGOs, you know, continue their awareness raising of the public, then I think they might just be okay. Let me have a look. I think we pretty much covered everything that I think is the most relevant points. So I'm actually in Singapore until the end of Feb. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. 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 Certainly. I have high-res photos taken by a professional photographer from the awareness event that we did. So they're really big, and they're. Do you know the photographer Alex Hoffert? Okay. He's been published in like the Guardian and stuff, and he took them. So I think that they would be up to the SCMP. Yeah, I think I'll check with him, but I'll check with him and I'll let you know. Oh no, thank you for to helping the pangolins, giving them page space. That's awesome. Yeah. If you have any questions or you want anything clarified, just email me because some of those volumes get quite confusing with the seasons. Maybe actually, if I could see the article before it goes to print, I would be really grateful just to check the facts and things like that. Okay, thank you.